Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. We believe wise investing starts with a plan, your plan. Now, your investments may have merit, relevance to a time and place, but this all depends on you, your objectives, and your goals. My name's Seth Cressman, and I'm here with Ben Brayshaw and John Ryder. We're all planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group. Good morning, guys.
Seth, good morning,
Seth.
man.
Don't everybody jump on that at once. That was, let me try that again. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Seth.
Good morning, Seth.
I didn't know we had an order. Okay.
We're glad to have you listening to Money on Tap. And if you're looking to sit down with an advisor and start making some of the right steps towards your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you at Brayshaw Financial Group. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook at 3D Investing. So, do you guys know what today is?
Today, Seth, is Tuesday. What?
Wrong answer. Today is the day where we want to help our listeners prepare for that day coming up, our favorite day of the year.
Oh, yes.
Right, which is, we all know too well, that's, of course, April 15th, typically. However, this year, it's not April 15th. It's April 17th. So that truly is worth celebrating, I think, 2 more days before
So what's the deal?
taxes,
So
folks.
usually tax day is April 15th, but a little different this year, huh?
They want to give us a couple more days to be able to pay the bill,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
especially
I think
since
they
taxes
back
went
and
down. Right?
I think they went back and looked at my previous filings and were like, we were just going to give Seth a break this year. You know, he seems to miss
48
April
hours,
15th
buddy. That's all you get.
consistently.
48 hours.
Such personalized service by the IRS.
Well, I think it's
I
interesting.
love them.
So it's interesting. So April 15th is on a Sunday. So normally it would be like the next day, right? The 16th. But it's not. It's the Tuesday following the 15th.
Yeah, and so there's a special holiday on the 16th called Emancipation Day. This is what Washington, D.C. celebrates. And that,
Now, this is not nice. You celebrate freedom the day before you enslave me in taxes.
Ben, right on, man.
I mean, what
Right
the heck is
on.
going on? Oh, yeah, a little naive
Right
here. You think
on.
I'm stupid. Come on.
So the IRS has given everyone a little bit of a break, I guess. Hey, we don't want to slam on the IRS. We actually have a wonderful listener of ours that works for the IRS. That
Yes.
is just a wonderful client of ours. Actually, we have several IRS friends out there. I don't think more than several, but we have several.
John uses the word friends loosely, folks. He uses it loosely. I don't know. Friendship inside the tax collectors. I don't know. We'll see.
So anyway, you know,
Well, I usually like giving my money to friends, so I'm going to call them friends.
hey, nice, Seth. Nice. I like it when you give money to friends too. I hope I consider one. Yeah.
It's easier. It's a better perspective. It's just
listen to
easier
this.
all the way around.
So April 17th is kind of a weird day because it is tax day this year. But did you know that April 17th is not only tax day, but it's also the annual observation of the following holidays? Listen to this. This is actually true. Bat Appreciation Day, not baseball bat, like the rodent bat. It's also the annual observation of blah, blah, blah day. Not that I've ever observed that. Ellis Island Family History Day, International Ford Mustang Day, International Haiku Poetry Day, National Kickball Day, National Cheeseball Day, and World Hemophilia Day. So, guys, I was wondering if all these days were actually true, and I have good news.
It's
to report.
hard for me to celebrate them all in one day.
But
honestly,
it is-
I think they need to break it
But
apart.
we need to do that. We need to do that on that day. But they're all actual days of observance. And do you know how I know that? It was on the
How?
internet. And guess what? Everyone knows that everything that is on the internet is true. So I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. You're right, John. It is. If it's out there and if you are able to
What do you do on
Google that or
National
something
Cheese
that,
Ball Day? What do you do? Come on.
I was aware of National Kickball Day, National
Were you?
Cheese Ball Day, blah 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 Day. The rest of them I wasn't, but I think that's enough to go ahead and probably move that back to the 18th.
Well,
I got a few more
I think
days.
what's interesting here, because I'm looking at the list and our listeners are not looking at the list, but it's interesting how some things made the international day and some only
Yes.
made the national day.
Ford Mustang Day. Big.
That's an international deal.
Yes.
But if you're a cheese ball, we're only celebrating you in the
National.
United States. It's only a national.
Right. How wacky is all that, huh?
Maybe more like just Wisconsin or
Wisconsin Cheesehead Day.
yeah.
And what is blah, blah, blah day?
I have no idea, but we've all had those days, I guess. And I guess April 17th is really, truly the day that we should
That's how I
celebrate.
feel when I'm paying taxes. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, it coincides perfectly
It's-
for you this year, Ben.
Yes, it's
Perfectly.
like the birthday on February 29th.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
when you have...
Yeah, so you're only once every 4 years. Is that what we got for leap year? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, so getting
Moving
back to
along,
the
says
shoe
Seth.
for
Moving
today. Well, it's almost April 15th, and we're going to talk about some things that you can and should be looking at around this time of year. In fact, we're going to focus on 9 ways in which you can reduce your taxes. Now, if you're listening to this show now and you haven't filed, take some notes, consider some ways which you might be able to save some of your hard-earned money in your pocket.
Hey,
But
Seth,
before-
if you're listening to the show right now and it's right around April 1st, you probably should be doing more than taking notes. It's probably time to get that information to your CPA, or it's probably time to start entering your TurboTax stuff soon, because we all know what happens when it comes to taxes. And I don't know why. Why do we all procrastinate this stuff? I don't know. So I'm going to ask you, Seth, are you a procrastinator? You mentioned something alluding earlier to the show. Are you a procrastinator when it comes to doing your taxes?
Blah,
comes
blah,
to
blah day again.
It's not National
I'm so
Mutant
busy
Day, Seth.
celebrating Bad Appreciation Day and blah 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 day. Then it does slip my mind. From
I'm going to be so busy that day. I don't even know how I'm going to get all the holidays in.
Hey, we're going to get back to procrastination later on, but before we do that,
Hey, for everyone who is celebrating all those holidays, just file an extension to October 15th. That's my best advice.
absolutely. So that's your financial advice from Ben Brayshaw. That's good. Okay, so before we get back to those 9 ways in which you can save money, it is time for one of our favorite segments here that sometimes goes on a little too long, but that's all right. I think we all enjoy it. It is Money in the News.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui. Et toi, monsieur? Okay.
So good for you guys. I have no idea what any of that was, but
That's sorry, Steph. That's elementary French right there, buddy. Elementary.
yeah. I'm
Ben
not
said,
this-
"Do you
yeah,
speak
I'm
French?"
not-
And I said, "No, Mister, Sir."
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, we to that. Yeah.
he's got it. He's got it.
This first in the news story is hilarious. I mean, it's bad hilarious. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so this is headline news from CNN, our favorite news source. Friday, March 16th, there's an article written by A.J. Willingham, who the title is "A French Baker is Slapped with a Fine for Working Too Darn Much." And it talks about how there's a bakery owner.
Only the French could come up with this.
Yes, a bakery owner in the in I guess the political region of Obi states that there's a statute or a law that says that bakeries must close at least one day a week. Now I know we have companies here in the U.S. obviously that do that. So for instance, we have Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
We have Hobby Lobby that decided they don't want to do it. In fact, they found that they're more profitable not doing that, and it's amazing how it all works out. But they decided that's
Wait, Chick-fil-A doesn't open on Sundays or something?
Oh, come on, Seth. Do you not have
Seth.
Chick-fil-A out there?
We do.
Oh.
We just got one like 2 years ago, and I've been
Take-
twice.
Surprise the family and take them all there on Sunday and learn how to really tick off your family. Okay? Because, yeah, they'll be closed. So check out the Tim Hawkins song from Chick-fil-A. You've heard Tim Hawkins before? Have you heard of him?
I can't tell you how many times I've been disappointed.
no.
Like, we'll be out with a family driving by, like, hey, Chick-fil-A's in the area. It's like, oh, it's Sunday. Oh,
not
it's
true.
Sunday.
It's true.
Or when you're traveling
We
back.
hate Sundays now. Yeah.
When you're traveling, like, on vacation or something, you're leaving
Yeah.
on a Sunday, you're like, hey, we're going down south. We're going right by a Chick. No, it's Sunday.
Yeah. The worst thing is when you find that out when you're in the drive-through line and you've been sitting there for a while and no one answers. Yeah.
And you're like, hey, there's nobody.
I think that's happened before to me. So anyway, this local baker, Cedric Vevre, elected to stay open every day of the week in order to make the most out of the busy summer season in 2017. Well, guess what? He was hit with a serious fine by the government. The serious fine was about $3,700 in U.S. money. So supporters in his town are actually kind of upset. He's kind of upset. He doesn't want to pay the fine, and they're actually sending around a petition, an online petition, to actually get them to reverse the fee. They have 2,000 signatures right now. I guess that they want to get their bakery goods 7 days a week, and they don't want to have a day off.
I mean, if you want to work 7 days a week, it's your choice. I just think this
If
is
you're
just
in the United States.
right, but this is like the biggest anti-capitalistic story I've heard in a long time. This is good.
Yes.
This is good.
So this guy gets on the radio, on a radio station, RMC, in local OB France, and he says, hey, I don't agree with the fine, and I just like my job. He says, we've got to stop penalizing people who work. I'm with the guy. But that's kind of how it works out there. You know, I don't know, Seth, you've been to Europe. You haven't been to Europe before?
No, I have
you been-
never
have
been
you
to
been
Europe.
to Europe?
I have,
Haven't
but
been
not
there, too.
but mission trips, not.
Okay, so you weren't out there whining and dining and that kind of thing.
But you were, John. So go ahead.
I wasn't,
Continue
but-
the conversation.
But I
I'm
did
curious.
have a company trip out there years ago, and it was to Switzerland. So it's a kind of a cool trip that we had. But one thing that was interesting was the fact that it seemed like whenever you wanted to go to a restaurant or you wanted to grab something, things were closed all the time. So walking down these cobblestone streets, which were pretty cool, they would, they might be open from 8 in the morning till 10, but then they'd close from 10 to 2. It's the strangest thing. And so it was just very, very inconvenient. And a lot of times
Restaurants, if it's a restaurant, they do that here too, just so you know.
well, I don't know. You'd notice the difference.
Maybe
there.
not 10 to 2. That's
Yeah.
not typical for a restaurant to be closed. They do close after
but even though
lunch to dinner.
and sometimes they were closed until about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then they'd open up because the people in Switzerland, I guess they open, so they start eating at 9 or 10 at night. And they go till 1. It's just the culture is so much different. But yeah, being fined for working hard just seems kind of crazy. But I guess sometimes we look at our tax situation here. Sometimes, right? You work, the harder you work, it seems the more you pay in taxes. I don't know, the more money you make.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually say it goes the same way. They're paying the country, more money either way, right? If you work more here, you're going to get fined for working more.
That's right. Either
or
way,
you get taxed.
So in France, I guess they have a 35-hour work week. That's pretty much what it is. And I guess if you're a worker in France, you like that. However, if you want to work harder than that, you better be ready to pay up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've actually put some limitations on after hours like emails and some of those things too. So you got to love the French for that. I really wished that Willingham would have maybe done something more with the title here. A French baker is slapped with a fine. Like, couldn't they have done something like bagged with a fine? Something more.
You've been baguetted
with a fine,
Good job, gentlemen.
I like that. I like
Good
that.
job.
creped with a fine. I don't know. There's got to be some kind of a baking term out there that would have worked well.
All right. I'll send an email to her later on, Seth. So good. That's good.
Yeah. Send,
Come on, AJ, get it right.
Okay, so second
take her out to
story.
coffee.
Second story from Money in the News. This is something that may ring a little sad with some of our audience out there. Some of our audience. On March 17th, there was an article that talks about how Toys R Us went from big kid on the block to bust. So Toys R Us is closing all their stores in the United States. And that includes Babies R Us, too, if you didn't know that was a related chain. But do you guys remember when you were kids going to that? We didn't have the Walmart then, right? No.
Big deal here.
Yeah, and I don't know, Ben, you grew up in northern New Hampshire. I don't know if you had one around here. It was Manchester, an area where they had the Toys
Manchester.
R Us. Yeah, so they've kind of got rid of all these things, but it's really it's an interesting history when you chronicle it. Back in 1948, the owner of it, he was age 25 actually. His name was Charles Lazarus. He opened a baby furniture store called Children's Bargain Town in Washington D.C. He knew that Americans returning from World War II who were starting families and needed somewhere to stock up on nursery decor. But before long, he discovered that the real money was not in cribs, but in toys. And basically what he did is he opened his first stocked toy store in 1957. It was interesting because it was modeled after a supermarket, with items stocked high on the shelves and a wide assortment of choices. And he named it Toys R Us. It had a backwards R in it. Remember that? The logo was supposed to look like it was drawn by a kid. And then do you guys remember that? Maybe I spent too much time here, but remember that giraffe?
Yeah.
That they had.
Yeah.
I think his name was Jeffrey. And,
I never got to spend time there. We would
didn't?
drive by, and it's like, and I would point at the sign and
No toy for
say,
you,
hey,
Seth.
mom, can we go? And it's like she just laughed and be like, yeah, right. Like
Seth-
she wants that experience of me dragging her through the aisles, pointing at all this stuff that's begging her to buy me things.
Well, here's the deal. Seth's dad was a dentist, and Seth never flossed his teeth. And so he said,
What?
Seth, if you don't floss your teeth, no toys for you. That's basically what happened.
No toys for you.
That's why I never got any toys.
So
Told me to
19
get a job, buy your own toys.
So in 1973 they came out with a jingle. I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid. You know that one?
Yeah.
And so Toys R Us was booming. It went public in 1978. It just became a Wall Street favorite. In fact, it became so good that they actually built a Toys R Us in Times Square, and it really became the store without any competition out there. This was before Walmart came along. So what they started doing, they started offering things like diapers and stuff like that along with the toys and everything. And then all of a sudden, a company came in, and the CEO of that company was Sam Walton. And Sam Walton started offering diapers at a pretty severe discount to what Toys R Us was doing. And then things just took off, and they were having a lot of times just making ends meet. And in 2001, they opened that flagship store in Times Square. They had a 60-foot Ferris wheel in there, a life-size Barbie dollhouse. They wanted to get enthusiasm for the store, but the costs were crazy. And unfortunately, the store got saddled with debt. And but then he had different players.
I wonder how many of these iconic things that we've grown up with are going to pass by the wayside in our lifetime.
You know they will.
I mean, for our parents, maybe it was like the milkman. You remember when they, had the milk delivered to the doorstep or that kind of stuff?
Well, we were just in the conversation we were having before the show with the whole Facebook scenario. What happened is, Facebook is it's
they're reeling right now.
Yeah, they're really struggling in it. I mean, from the standpoint of it is a segment of culture that uses it. Like, my kids are not involved in Facebook at all. Like, my son has no interest in even having one.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when my daughter
That's
was
what
like,
he tells you.
well, I remember when my daughter was first, she wanted one. She doesn't even use it.
Yeah. My kids don't use it.
Yeah, and I think the lifespan of these is shortening significantly as well. Where these become like, how long has Facebook even been around? Maybe 15 years. And maybe in the next 5, we're just going to see it kind of become obsolete and pass by the wayside.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Huh?
Yeah, things
I don't know.
pass. So anyways, this Toys R Us thing in 2017.
How much
they
did
had
Zuckerberg lose yesterday?
$5 billion.
$5 billion.
Yeah, $5 billion. I think that was it. Yeah.
That's a better story, John. That's a better story.
Hey, you missed that one, John.
Oh, I got it. I got it at the table. Yeah. So everyone.
That was my contribution today. The big one, the big story.
So what happened with Facebook, though? What happened with Facebook? So yesterday, big deal. There was a company called Cambridge Analytics, and that company, Cambridge Analytics, they say was a Republican-sponsored company, and they did a lot of culling of information.
God forbid you be a Republican in this country.
That's right. Well, right now it's not looking too good for them. But they were actually culling information from Facebook, and they were starting to gear a lot of the ads towards people that had said, hey, I like certain conservative things, and they're starting to gear ads towards that way. And so that actually got found out. And, companies have been doing this for years, but when it's going into someone's politics or religion, that's certainly not what the company wants to see or what the public wants to see.
It's an interesting line in the sand, right? Because somebody's paying for that. And it's analytics, and people, those eyeball. That's the whole thing. Is if you Google furniture, boom, all of a sudden, everybody that pays for those analytics to get in front of you gets first dibs, basically. And why would it be any different for take it religion or politics?
Yeah, when it starts getting personal, that's when it starts. But if you like a golf course, you're going to start seeing golf clubs if you like a picture of a golf course or whatever, you're going to start seeing golf clubs on your Facebook profile. I mean, that's how it works.
Just playing devil's advocate here. I mean, is there a Democratic-focused political firm doing the same thing?
I'm sure there is.
Is it just because you're Republican you can't advertise? It's just that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, unfortunately, I guess it's time to get to the part of our show where we actually talk about some things that are important. But before we do that, we are going to take a break.
You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
A lengthy vacation requires some thoughtful and detailed planning, and few people would go on such a trip without the necessary preparation. On our Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Seth Cressman shows us with his example that the same care and thoughtfulness should also be given to our retirement planning.
This is a journey. This is a project that you have an opportunity to invest in and to uncover and identify how you want to live your life. And I think how many times, we go on vacation. A great friend of mine took his whole family on a mission trip to Guatemala this last year. And that looked like a tremendous adventure. And how much planning does it take to get that to happen? I have no problem involving myself in creating a plan around something like that. And if I can get my mindset to be thinking that way, like, wow, I am planning the largest vacation of my life. How much fun can that be? And I can't wait to sit down and talk to you about that, right?
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now back to Money on Tap with Ben Brayshaw, John Ryder, and Seth Cressman.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experiencing some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. Now, today, we are talking about taxes. Why is that so funny?
Because that's not fun.
About it a lot.
You just
It's
said
not
we're going to
fun.
have some fun, and that's not fun.
Liar, Seth,
I
liar.
lied right out of the
Blah,
gate.
blah,
I'm
blah
sorry.
day.
I'm so sorry. Let me go back to our phone number. It's 855-226-8551. There. That feels better for me. An email at info@yourmoneyontap. And clearly the phone is ringing off the hook now with people that are wanting to talk about taxes. But it's true, folks. It's that time of year. And once again, we get an opportunity to kind of dive into ways to save some money for you. Maybe some things, some last minute planning that you haven't done. And we might be able to bring some of that, shed some light on that. Maybe some of the things are going to be a little bit more of, 2018, what can you do to prepare yourself now moving forward for this next tax season, which will be a year out. But anyways, yeah, go for it, John.
So, Seth, I think tax filing is kind of like Christmas shopping. If you're a last-minute Christmas shopper, my guess is that you're a last-minute tax filer. What do you think? Does that probably ring true?
I don't know.
I bet you that's true, but and I don't want to go into whether I'm a last minute filer or not. That's none of anyone's business.
What if you're a quarterly filer?
Oh,
what if that's
yes. Well, you can still be a last minute filer being a quarterly filer too. We all know that. With the envelope to the IRS at the last second. Yeah. But last year we had 21.5 million Americans that waited until the last minute, or at least the last week, to submit their tax returns. That's roughly 1 in 7 filers, according to data from the Internal Revenue Service. So I don't know why so many people wait. Maybe it's just people want to put off the pain. Maybe they have things that are more important to do. I'm sure that's the case. I always find it interesting, though, when I find that people are expecting a big refund and they're putting off their filing. I don't know. If I was expecting a big refund, I'd be filing as fast as I could.
like
Well,
the day you
next
get
year
your
is going to be some
W-2.
serious refunds.
Things are going to change next year, and people are actually going to see that, aren't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to because of the Trump tax bill. We've talked about that.
Yeah, between the child care deduction for the people who are doing the, people who are itemizing. Some people aren't going to have to itemize. It's going to be a lot easier to get. Oh gosh, it's going to be a different ball game.
whole different
So
day.
maybe that's what we should have we probably should have backed this up about a month and said, people, have a kid if you're looking to pay less taxes this next year.
We can add that to the list if it's not on there.
Okay, let's we should put that back on.
I made a call to Kira for you.
Yeah, thanks. Sure she appreciates that first thing in the morning.
All right, guys. So getting back to it, 9 ways to lower your taxes this year. And if there's one thing I can say, if there's one thing that all of us Americans can agree on, there's not many things. There might be one thing, but if there's one thing, it's that no one wants to pay more in taxes. And we want to figure out how we can legally pay less in than perhaps we've done before.
Well, I think we've talked about this a couple of times, but I mean, honestly, in kind of the illustration, I've used and we've used a number of times is that, you can choose to drive anywhere you want and do anything you want to do in your car. And you can choose which
If
road.
you're in the United States.
You're in the United States. And you can choose to go down the highway and bop right through the tolls and maybe get somewhere 10, 15, 20 minutes faster, maybe an hour faster, or you can go the back roads and circumvent tolls and so forth. And, you get to the same places.
It'll cost you time, not money.
Right. But they're both legal and they're both okay to do. One has a toll or a tax and so forth. So I think what people don't understand, or a lot of people are like, hey, what are the clever ideas to do tax-wise? We get those questions regularly. And honestly, for everybody, it can be a little bit different. So some of the generic things we're going to talk about are very common and so forth. So we're going to try to make this show as user-friendly as possible. But there's always... What's that, Seth?
I was just gonna say, like, some of the listeners have taken that idea to the extreme, and just since we don't have any toll roads over here in Oregon, they just moved over. So, just letting people know that's also an option if you're trying to dodge those tolls.
Okay, so if you want to get on the bus, you have to pay.
Well, if you wanted to fly from one side of Oregon to the other, you'd have to pay taxes.
Listen, Oregonians, listen up. So if you want to get on a bus, it costs you. Do they charge out there, Seth, for buses, or is that just totally
it's
free?
Just free to live there? What's going on?
Maybe we should all move to Oregon.
Pretty much, that's our society here. It's everything's for granted.
Okay, so
gratis.
So one of the easiest ways in which you can save money, at least currently, on your taxes is to contribute to an IRA. Now, some people say, what do you mean by an IRA? Well, that's an individual retirement account. So the government allows you to put money in to a program with their tax stamp on it. And basically it says, we allow you, if you're under 50 years old, to put $5,500 a year into a traditional IRA. And that will actually lower your taxes. So if you were making $55,500, you would be able to write off that $5,500 of contribution that you put in there.
Yeah.
So that's a nice tax savings write-off, which actually lowers your taxable income. So that can make a lot of sense for people if they want to save taxes now.
Yeah, what people don't really understand about the functional movement of the money, it's like when you do an IRA contribution, you're taking the money that you already paid taxes on, sticking it in to an IRA, and then getting the deduction on the backside of your tax form.
Right.
Where with a 401k, an employer-sponsored plan, they take the money out before they tax you, put the money in there, and allow it to then grow. So you don't actually have a deduction. You just never pay taxes to begin with.
Exactly. It just looks like you have less income. And you can also do those contributions into your 401k. But Seth pointed out actually before the show, if you want to make a 401k contribution for the 2017 season, you should have done that by 12/31 of 2017.
Just got to hop in that time machine.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, but you know what's cool? That if you're listening to the show now and it's before the April 15th, April 17th deadline, you can actually write a check right up to that date and be able to get a tax break on that. One caveat to
I would also say that a lot of the time, kind of while we're going through processes like this of filing taxes, it brings everything to mind again. A lot of this stuff we've just kind of put on the back shelf. We're not really thinking about it throughout the year. And so you might have the opportunity to go ahead and make some changes now and do some saving on your taxes for this year. But don't miss the opportunity to use it as a planning forward opportunity as well for yourself. So that would be the 401k kind of an option.
Sure.
Or one of the other, go ahead.
So Ben, if I have money that I want to put into a 401k, let's say I'm 65 and I want to put actually into an IRA, and I have a $6,500 that I can put into that, that's what the government says. If I put that into a Roth IRA, what does that mean for me tax-wise?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing now, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so no tax deduction. The only deduction you get is on a traditional IRA or for a 401k. However, the Roth, the only thing with the Roth was very nice about the Roth is the fact that no deduction now, no tax break now, but when you actually pull money out of those Roth IRAs later on, then you have a substantial basically free money, no taxes that you pay on it coming out.
Yeah, I have a client I'm working with that's got a Roth IRA,
Yes.
a very large Roth IRA that she had done contribution after contribution after contribution. I think we did a small conversion at one time,
Yep.
but it's a significant amount of money, and she's looking to leave money to family and friends and so forth, and she doesn't want to increase her tax hit. So we actually bought some life insurance and had the Roth IRA pay for it because all the income
Tax-free, yeah.
was from the Roth IRA was tax-free. It was a great scenario.
Great planning.
Amplified her benefits to accomplish things for her heirs. Really exciting plan for her and what she wanted.
Great
So,
plan, for
yeah.
sure. So that's the number one. Seth, do you want to hit number 2 here as far as...
Yeah. Let's make an extra mortgage payment, people, and see how that works out for us. And here's the reason why. Basically, the tax benefits on that are the interest deduction, the mortgage interest deduction, and you could make your standard 12 monthly mortgage payments for 2018, call it a day. But if you want to eke out some extra savings, you can consider an additional payment next year, and the IRS allows you to deduct any mortgage interest you pay in a given year. So they're not really, putting a limitation on that for you. And you know what? I like this one so much that I even took it a step further and said, hey, what if you were to, instead of just paying that every once a month, let's say that you get paid once every 2 weeks, and you were to break up your mortgage payment into a 2 week payment, not necessarily pay your mortgage payment every 2 weeks, but let's just say you take that mortgage payment for the month and you break it up into what a 2 week payment would be, and you make that payment throughout the year.
Seth,
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Seth, let me bring it further. Let's say we do it every week. Every week, Seth. Every day I make a mortgage payment, Seth. That's just what I do.
You do it every week.
That's what I do.
I'm going to just stick with my every 2 weeks over here. But
Well,
what is that?
full disclosure. Full disclosure
Yeah.
to listeners. Some mortgage companies won't do that intentionally. They won't.
They won't allow you to, huh?
They won't allow you to because the ultimate bonds that they're offering behind the scenes have to hit certain rates and what they've
Interesting.
committed.
So check with your mortgage company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't let your mortgage get sold to those companies, people, if you have any control over that.
Agreed.
But basically, you cut it down to a 22-year lifespan on that loan. And on the average of a $300,000 loan, that could save you $70,000
Wow.
just by
Wow.
budgeting yourself that way. And, most people are getting paid every 2 weeks or twice a month or something along those lines if they're W-2 employees. And that's just one of the ways that you could kind of structure yourself and save a lot of money. And it's not necessarily, and you do save that tax money as well because you're making additional interest, principal and interest payments towards the mortgage. So the same thing applies there.
Great. Good point. So number 3, we talked about contributing to an IRA. That's the first one. Second one, making an extra mortgage payment or 2. And number 3, giving more cash to charity. Now, we all know that giving is good for the soul, right? So that's certainly a good thing, and it's the right thing to do. But it's also good for your taxes. And so taking advantage of the tax deduction you get for contributing, it could be to your church, could be to a local charity.
Yeah.
It's a great way in which you can reduce your taxes.
And there's a lot of things that we do here beyond the charitable side of just giving money away, but giving it in a way that can create more tax incentives where, like charitable trust work that we do, charitable remainder, charitable lead trusts, things like that. So if you're looking to get clever about how to give and maybe, give to a specific cause, specific reason in a way that would both amplify your tax benefits and, create opportunity there, that's something to give us a call about because there's some clever architecture you can build inside that.
Ben, we've had a lot of fun with that in this past year. Helped one gentleman really help out with a crisis pregnancy center. This guy really was his desire to really help out in this crisis pregnancy center, and he's done very well. And we were able to help him set up a structure that allowed him to actually give a lot of money to this charity over the next 10 years, and it's really a tremendous way. And this kind of giving really excites people. It's fun for them because they get to see, hey, here's how I can help, and here's how I can make a tangible difference, and they're able to help themselves at the same time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's a win-win for sure. So.
I also liked this one so much that I decided to run the same application on the previous one and see what would happen if I were to give my mortgage payment to a charity. And it didn't come out so well in my favor on that one, guys. Mortgage company was a little upset about that. So,
was it a Seth Cressman charity? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Got to pay your mortgage, Seth. Got to pay your mortgage.
Well, I think that carries right into number 4. right? So,
Sure.
cleaning out your closets from a donation standpoint, there's a lot of stuff that we have that we don't use. I mean, as Americans, we talk about, like Toys R Us said, there's all these toys they have, they break, they're this, that, and the other thing, or they, you grow out of them or whatever.
Yeah.
You can donate that stuff to people in need, and that's separate from just the goodwill of helping in that capacity. It's, you do get a deduction for the value of that.
Yep, and I know a lot of times we get our Salvation Army receipts and bring those to the tax table when it comes in that time of the year. So for sure, Ben, I want to highlight number 5, which is track your mileage. Ben's a very good mileage tracker. Everywhere I go with Ben always is whipping out that clipboard you have in your car, and you're writing mileage down just constantly, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do that.
Ben travels a lot between offices and to clients and this and that.
Yeah,
And
so I'm in the car quite a bit, and so I've made it a practice, a habit. I've tried other things too besides the paper log and so forth. Like I've tried some of the phone apps and stuff like that.
You think the apps would be easier, but not necessarily. I haven't found that to be.
I had one that I was trying to compare, so I did like a week. It's supposed to realize when you're in the car,
sure,
when you're traveling and so forth. And it was like 3/4. I think it was about 3/4 or 80% of the same mileage. And I was like, well, okay. So
it's like a Fitbit for taxes. Right?
I mean, if you don't track the mileage, that's better than nothing. Yeah. So I would say, do it. But and then on the other side of it, it's like the organization behind it. For me, I just write it down, and if anyone needs to see it, I've got it. I show it to my every year. I hand it to my CPA, and he's like, "Oh my gosh."
No one does that.
No one does this. I was like, I thought it was required. So that's me, mileage logger.
So signing up for an FSA.
I want you to turn that into some kind of like a
blog?
clip art book, or but yeah.
I think it could be mileage logger blogger, Ben Brayshaw.
The pictures along the way, the journey, and turning it into the life of Ben behind the wheel. That would be fascinating, I think.
I don't know about that.
We're going to take a quick break at Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Hello, my name is John Ryder, a partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day, and planning a successful retirement today is more challenging than ever, with a roller coaster stock market, political and economic uncertainty, and so many unknowns when it comes to the escalating costs of healthcare. Let us show you how we utilize the 3D method of investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Using our experience, let us help you plan for a successful retirement. Now is the right time to start getting help. Give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices across the country. We would love the opportunity to meet with you. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us, and we welcome you to our offices. Call 855-226-8551 today.
More Money on Tap in just a moment. Ben, John, and Seth explain why it's important for the investor to beware, even when it sounds legitimate, which was the case with Bernie Madoff and the now well-known Ponzi schemes. That's today on our Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, as Ben begins by describing what the fraudulent claim looks like.
Someone's taking your money in, showing you a potential value to your assets in which they are not actually true.
And also they're saying, hypothetically, we can get you a 15% rate of return guaranteed on a regular basis, and maybe they're going to show you a certificate or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what Bernie Madoff was doing, but he was actually, we don't make the big returns. We just do 8%. And, the banks, everyone was buying into this. He's like, we're not the big, hedge funds. We just do a steady.
So he was selling to investment companies. He was selling to everyone, not your next door neighbor, but he was selling to everyone.
Yeah, big banks, everybody. Yeah. And, a lot of people don't realize that he helped write a lot of, the laws that we actually work under in some capacities in the securities world. So it's interesting that he was involved on that end and knew the fraud, how to do it. The one thing I find about Ponzi schemes is that in a positive market, it's easier to hide.
As returns everything's doing well. And
right. It was in the big crashes that Ponzi schemes show their face.
When everything's going well, nobody's paying that close of attention, right? But when they start to see a market correction, and investors start to go to, where do I have my money and how do I safeguard some of my money, and start divesting and taking some of that money off the table and putting it into savings accounts or whatever they think is more secure possibly. But anyways, when it starts to unwind, well, then that's when it exposes the Ponzi schemes, because typically the Ponzi schemes are relying on an influx of people putting more money into the program. When it starts to go away, then they have no way of having liquidity, and so they get exposed.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now here's more Money on Tap with Seth, Ben, and John.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Today, we are diving in to taxes, ways to save in your taxes, maybe some last-minute tax planning that your preparation that you haven't considered or haven't quite gotten to, or doing some future planning and making sure that some of the deductions that are still available that you can take advantage of, and that you're kind of keeping track of. We were just talking about tracking your mileage, and that can be, if you've done it various ways, which we've just discussed, whatever works. That's kind of my motto. If you can get that to be an app on your phone, or if you can use Ben's program of the clipboard and writing and tracking, or I've seen little like pocket calendar book things too that people have carried around and used. Either way, it can be huge and make a big difference. But we were going to head into signing up for an FSA. And if you're not familiar with that is, it's called a flexible spending account that your employer might offer, and definitely can pay to sign up, because what you're going to get to do with that is pay for healthcare, childcare expenses with pre-tax dollars, basically lessening your income, right? Or your stated whatever your income would be W-2'd at, and allowing you to go ahead and funnel those funds into some areas that we use every year if we're spending money at the Rite Aid, or what do you guys use over there? Do Walgreens, Rite Aid?
CVS, yeah.
CVS?
Yeah.
That's actually Kira's favorite store, CVS, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
When she comes out here, we'll have to make sure we take her by one.
Well, I think what's really cool about the FSA, and what people, like if you don't have an employer sponsored plan and you're trying to figure out some deductions, right? The contributions to your IRA, maybe the 5,500, or if you're over 50, the catch up is 6,500, and you say, man, I wish I could put some more. And so maybe you do one for your wife if you're married, right? And you say, I wish I could do a little bit more. Here's something else you can deduct, and you can use it for your family. So that's something that's pretty interesting that way.
It is. And, in 2018, you can contribute up to $2,650 to a healthcare FSA, and you can also contribute up to $5,000 to a dependent care FSA, assuming if you're either single or married filing jointly. But otherwise, married couples filing separately can contribute up to $2,500 a year. So this can really certainly be a good savings, especially for those folks that have to have the kids in childcare and all that. That can certainly be a big help along the way, for sure.
So holding on to profitable investments for a year and a day. This is number 7, folks. And
Seth, a year and a day. How about a year and 2 days? That'll work too.
It does work. It does. Everything after a year and a day works. As far as my experience with this, I've yet to have somebody sit me down and show me otherwise. But completely open to that too. So, anyways, a year and a day. Here's the reason why that you want to do that, and it has to do with the capital gains taxes.
Yep.
So, the problem is if you go ahead and sell an investment prior to that year and a day, any of the gains on that shows up as ordinary income in the current tax brackets. Whereas if you hold on to that for a year and a day and then sell, you have it goes into long-term capital gains, which maxes out at 20%. And that can be really significant when you're driving income through investments. Sure. Or just, taking some money off the table. Don't shortchange yourself in those areas if you have non-qualified accounts that you that's the thing here. This doesn't apply to your 401ks or your IRAs. This is all non-qualified world investments. Your stocks, your bonds, your all of ETFs, you name it, all that kind of stuff.
we talked about winning investments, but sometimes all of us out there, none of us like to admit it, but sometimes we have investments that haven't done so well. So that brings us to number 8. Sell those poor performing investments.
John, you have to work in this area a lot more than I do, so why don't you go ahead and...
Yeah, John, can you just do some education?
Let me tell you how this works. But sometimes, when there's underperformers in your portfolio, we're talking portfolios outside of your IRA, it may be a very good chance to write off some of those investment losses. So many people are not aware that they can actually take $3,000 of losses that they had and apply that towards the gains that they have the following year. So here's an example of kind of how that would work. Imagine that next year you earn $2,000 in gains and take a $6,000 loss. The first $2,000 of that loss will be used to cancel out your gains. So the next $3,000 will be used to offset your ordinary income for the year. So here's what I want people to understand. If you're losing money on an investment, it may be a time to dump that for tax purposes. And so we need to determine what investment that is and decide whether this is an investment to go ahead and do that with.
Right. If you want to stay in the investment, I mean, by selling it, you could end up buying back in after a period of time. You have to wait a little bit.
30 days.
Yeah.
Like
So,
yep.
But you could buy back in and say, well, I'll reset my cost basis and the tax savings for me this year is relevant. So if you have a question like that, like if you want to do some strategy buy sell work, there may be a conversation you need to have with a professional on that.
Absolutely. In fact, when it comes to all of these tips that we're talking about for saving money on your taxes, while we are all fairly well educated on them, really it would make most sense for you to sit down with a CPA just to go over the different possibilities and things that you can do to go ahead and further lowering your taxes. We're certainly knowledgeable in these areas, but certainly it's always good to remember that a CPA, a certified public accountant, is really kind of the final answer when it comes to a lot of these things with your taxes. And in concerning that, I think about number 9, and I think we have all probably over the years being self-employed guys here struggle with, hey, do I take up a home office deduction or not? So if you're self-employed, there's a very good reason to work from home, right?
Right. I'm encouraging you both to work from home more.
I guess Ben doesn't like seeing this stuff in the office. Okay. So from now on, I'm working at home.
No, I think you guys should really expand this deduction.
Ben really cares about our tax situation. That's very nice.
Very concerned about the well-being.
So the question is, guys, when can you set up a home office deduction? We hear people talking about it all the time, but when can we actually set up a home office deduction? Well, I think you can when you're actually doing business at home. Yeah. You actually have a portion of your house that's designated. Like you can't necessarily write off your kitchen table because you're sitting down at your kitchen tables and maybe going over some files. No, because that's kind of a multi-purpose
living room couch,
perhaps. But typically the IRS likes to see a separate part of your house designated for that. It could be an over-the-car garage. It could be maybe a separate sunroom, that type of thing. They like to see it separate square feet.
An over-the-car garage?
Over-the-car garage? Is that what I meant?
That's what I just heard you say.
Well, that's probably not accurate. What would that be? An over-the-car...
they call it
over the
front room over the garage. Front room.
I have an over-the-car garage here at my house.
So we had looked at houses down south when we went to school down there, and they were talking about, people were like, yeah, this place has got a frog, that place has got a frog. I was like, a frog? I was like, what are you talking about? It's a front room over the garage. They call them frogs.
Oh, funny. Well, that's what I meant to say. That probably makes more sense than car over the garage, but
Well, frog sure didn't make much sense to me then.
Do you guys have ADUs there? Just making sure. I don't know. Accessory dwelling units?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Is that a terminology? That's just okay.
No.
All right. Well, that's what we got. We've got ADUs. We don't have frogs.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
That sounds like a government organization.
It does.
We have an ADU.
That was a really exciting way to wrap up that.
John, well, I want to talk about my favorite day. We talked a lot of holidays.
Your birthday, Ben? Your birthday?
Well,
yeah. Seth's birthday
this
too.
This is a close second. Then. This is a close second.
Okay.
That used to be my favorite day until I.
Well, actually, I got to put my wife and kids first, so we got a lot of days first before this. But one of my favorite days is Tax Freedom Day.
Yes, freedom. What do you mean by that, Ben? Tax Freedom Day.
Well, so
that's an oxymoron right there.
Yeah, I know.
Tax Freedom Day.
Tax Freedom Day. It's like we've been emancipated, as we talked about that day before. So Tax Freedom Day is April 23rd of this year. So that means that every day
of 17.
Of 17.
Yeah.
So every day, exactly, of 17, I'm sorry. Every day that we worked, we had to work till April 23rd before the taxes were officially paid for, according to this country.
Ben, do you know that Americans will pay $3.5 trillion in federal taxes and $1.6 trillion in state and local taxes for a total bill of more than $5.1 trillion, or 31% of the nation's income? And it says this, the article we're reading says that Americans will collectively spend more on taxes in 2017 than they will on food, clothing, and housing combined. Think about that. Think about how much your mortgage payment is. Think about how much you spend on food and clothing.
Yeah.
And then it's more that you pay on taxes.
That's crazy. I put all that stuff together, and you just wonder where the money goes, and everyone has that question mark, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know where it goes now. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so much. I mean, the interest alone we pay is horrendous.
But if you include federal annual borrowing, the annual federal borrowing that happens in our country, it represents future taxes owed, basically. Tax Freedom Day would occur 14 days later on May 7th.
Yes.
So that's a lot of taxes, and that's a lot of time putting into paying those taxes for sure. And you know what's interesting, too, is that Tax Freedom Day is on a different day in each state. So, for instance, if you're in Maine, your Tax Freedom Day is April 17th. If you're in Florida, your Tax Freedom Day is April 20th. Texas, it's 19. Check out California. California's way out there, right? May 1st for California is your Tax Freedom Day.
Mass is May 5th.
Yeah.
New Hampshire's is April 22nd.
Yeah. What's Oregon?
Live free or die. I don't understand how we were living free right there on April 22nd.
What do you got, Seth, out there?
April 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah, but they don't have tolls.
Mississippi getting us in early at April 5th. That would be the first of our great states to be experience the Tax Freedom Day. But I thought it was an interesting percentage there, 31% of the national income. So does that mean a 31% tax bracket? Hey, well, that's going to do it for us here at Money on Tap. Hopefully, you've had some fun while talking about taxes, ways to save on taxes this year, and ideas for you to move into this next year of 2018. We've had a lot of fun talking about it with you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap. That's going to do it for us here at Money on Tap. Thanks a lot for joining us.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.